The Interspecies Academy was known across the galaxy as the pinnacle of educational excellence. Nestled on a sprawling planet with landscapes as varied as its inhabitants, it was a place where the brightest minds from every known species came together to learn, grow, and compete. The Academy itself was a marvel, with towering spires made of shimmering alloys and vast halls lined with the histories of the galaxy's most significant achievements. Students from every corner of the universe walked its corridors, each species bringing its own unique culture and abilities to the melting pot of intergalactic knowledge. But among all the events hosted by the Academy, none were as anticipated as the Classroom Challenge. This prestigious annual competition was more than just a test of intellect and skill. It was a stage where the best of the best proved themselves. The challenges varied each year, designed to push students to their limits and beyond. To win the Classroom Challenge was to earn respect, recognition, and a place in the annals of Academy history. This year, however, the challenge had an unexpected twist. For the first time, students from a death world were participating. Death worlds were infamous across the galaxy, planets so hostile that only the most resilient of species could survive, let alone thrive. The mere mention of these worlds conjured images of barren wastelands, savage beasts, and relentless natural disasters. The inhabitants of these worlds were known as Deathworlders, and their presence at the Academy was nothing short of shocking. The Deathworlders arrived with little fanfare, their arrival marked by a cold silence that contrasted sharply with the usual chatter of new students. There were 5 of them, each one more imposing than the last. Their skin bore the marks of their harsh upbringing, scars, burns, and other remnants of battles fought and won against their unforgiving environment. Their eyes were sharp, scanning their surroundings with the intensity of predators assessing their next move. Clad in simple, functional clothing, they looked out of place among the brightly dressed and well-groomed students from other worlds. Whispers followed the Deathworlders wherever they went. Other students kept their distance, some out of fear, others out of disdain. The Deathworlders were seen as primitives, relics from a less civilized time. The Academy was a place of learning and refinement, and these newcomers, with their rough manners and unpolished appearance, seemed like a poor fit. Some of the more privileged students sneered openly, their disdain clear in their eyes. To them, the Deathworlders were nothing more than curiosities, creatures from a savage world who had no business being in a place of such prestige. The faculty, too, were not immune to these biases. While the official stance of the Academy was one of inclusion and equality, there were murmurs among the professors and instructors. Some questioned whether the Deathworlders could even survive the rigorous academic and physical challenges that lay ahead. Others wondered if allowing them to participate was a mistake, a misguided attempt at diversity that would ultimately tarnish the reputation of the challenge. Despite the cold reception, the Deathworlders remained stoic, their expressions unreadable. They spoke little, if at all, their communication with each other consisting of brief, clipped words in their own harsh-sounding language. They attended the introductory classes without complaint, though it was clear that the structured environment of the Academy was foreign to them. Where other students took notes and asked questions, the Deathworlders sat in silence, their focus unwavering but distant, as if they were mentally elsewhere, in a place far removed from the polished halls of the Academy. As the days passed and the start of the Classroom Challenge drew nearer, the tension surrounding the Deathworlders grew. The other students began placing bets, not on whether the Deathworlders would win, but on how quickly they would fail. Some speculated that they wouldn't even make it past the first round, their primitive minds overwhelmed by the complexities of the challenges. The instructors, meanwhile, exchanged worried glances in the faculty lounges, quietly discussing contingency plans in case the Deathworlders' participation ended in disaster. Yet, amidst the doubt and derision, there was a simmering curiosity. What kind of students would come from a planet so harsh it was classified as a death world? What secrets did they carry in their silence, and what would happen when those secrets were revealed? The answers to these questions lingered in the air, unspoken but ever-present, as the Academy braced itself for the beginning of a Classroom Challenge unlike any other. The Classroom Challenge began with an air of anticipation, the first test being one of mental prowess. The challenge involved complex puzzles and strategic thinking, tasks designed to assess a student's intellectual capabilities and problem-solving skills. The Deathworlders approached this challenge with the same stoic determination they had shown since their arrival. Yet, it quickly became apparent that this was not their strength. They struggled, their unfamiliarity with the structured, academic way of thinking painfully evident. Where other students swiftly navigated through the logic problems and intricate equations, the Deathworlders faltered. Their answers were often unconventional, rooted more in survival instincts than in formal education. They relied on brute logic, cutting through problems with a directness that was almost too simple, too raw. While this approach allowed them to scrape by, it was clear they were out of their element. The results seemed to confirm what many had suspected: the Deathworlders were intellectually inferior, their rough upbringing leaving them ill-prepared for the rigors of academic challenges. Some students exchanged smug glances, their earlier doubts seemingly validated. The Deathworlders had passed, but only just, and it reinforced the belief that they were out of their depth. But the next challenge told a different story. The physical endurance test was designed to push students to their limits, demanding strength, stamina, and resilience. It was here that the Deathworlders began to reveal what they were truly capable of. The challenge involved a grueling obstacle course, simulated harsh environments, and prolonged periods of exertion meant to test not just the body, but the spirit. Where other students began to tire, their energy waning under the relentless demands of the course, the Deathworlders seemed to grow stronger. They moved with a fluidity and grace that belied their rugged appearances, their bodies honed by the merciless conditions of their homeworld. Obstacles that slowed others down were met with ease, and the extreme conditions that caused others to falter were barely acknowledged by the Deathworlders. They pushed through with a relentless drive, their endurance seemingly boundless. Their ability to withstand pain, fatigue, and extreme conditions was unlike anything the Academy had ever seen. Where others gasped for breath, muscles burning with exhaustion, the Deathworlders remained steady, their breathing controlled, their focus unbroken. It became clear that what the Deathworlders lacked in academic prowess, they more than made up for in physical and mental resilience. They had survived on a world that would have broken others, and it showed. The other students watched in awe and disbelief as the Deathworlders not only completed the course but did so with a level of ease that was almost superhuman. Whispers began to spread throughout the Academy. Students who had once dismissed them as primitive started to reconsider. This was more than mere physical fitness. This was something extraordinary, something beyond the norm. The success in the physical challenge began to shift perceptions. A few students, previously indifferent or openly mocking, now looked at the Deathworlders with a newfound respect. They started to realize that there was more to these students than they had initially thought. Perhaps the harsh conditions of a death world had forged them into something more, something that the other species, with their more comfortable existences, could never truly understand. But not everyone was impressed. Envy and suspicion began to take root among some of the students. Whispers turned into rumors. Were the Deathworlders hiding something? Was there more to their abilities than just a tough upbringing? The faculty, too, began to pay closer attention. What had started as curiosity was now turning into a more serious inquiry. The Deathworlders had passed the first two challenges, but what would happen as the tests continued? What other abilities might they reveal, and what did this mean for the Academy and the galaxy at large? The classroom challenge was far from over, and it was becoming clear that the Deathworlders were not just participants, they were the ones to watch. The third challenge was set in a vast, simulated environment designed to mimic the most hostile conditions found in the galaxy. The task was clear: survive and navigate through a series of unpredictable dangers. It was a test of adaptability, resourcefulness, and quick thinking under pressure, qualities that would separate the truly exceptional from the merely capable. From the moment the simulation began, it was clear that this was where the Deathworlders would shine. As the environment shifted from one extreme to another, blistering heat, freezing cold, violent storms, and treacherous terrain, the Deathworlders moved with a confidence that left the observers stunned. Where other students hesitated or struggled, the Deathworlders acted instinctively, their movements precise and unerring. They adapted to each new challenge as if it were second nature, their bodies and minds perfectly attuned to the shifting conditions. Their strength was more than just physical. It was a deep-rooted resilience that had been forged in the crucible of their homeworld. Their speed was astonishing, their reflexes sharp, and their senses keen beyond the norm. They reacted to threats before they fully materialized, anticipating danger with an almost preternatural awareness. In situations where others would have faltered or been overwhelmed, the Deathworlders pressed forward, seemingly unfazed by the escalating dangers. The simulation, designed to push even the best students to their limits, seemed almost too easy for them. They moved through it as if they were in their natural habitat, displaying an extraordinary combination of strength, speed, and survival instincts. By the time the simulation ended, the Deathworlders stood alone at the finish line, having completed the challenge in a fraction of the time it took the others. The Academy's halls, usually filled with the hum of activity and conversation, fell into a stunned silence as the results were displayed. The spectators, both students and faculty, were left speechless. What they had just witnessed was beyond anything they could have imagined. It wasn't just that the Deathworlders had won, it was how they had done it, with an ease and skill that bordered on the impossible. Whispers of disbelief quickly turned into murmurs of fear and awe. The students, who had once ridiculed and underestimated the Deathworlders, now looked at them with a mix of respect and apprehension. Their abilities were not just impressive, they were terrifying in their sheer scope. The faculty, who had initially been skeptical of the Deathworlders' inclusion in the challenge, now found themselves questioning the limits of what they thought possible. Could these students be the product of some unknown force? Were they truly so different, or was this something that could be understood and perhaps harnessed? As the challenge came to an end, a small group of students, unable to contain their curiosity and unease, approached the Deathworlders. Their initial respect was quickly overtaken by a mix of envy and suspicion. They demanded answers. How had the Deathworlders achieved such feats? What was the source of their power? The leader of the Deathworlders, a tall figure with eyes that seemed to pierce through the bravado of those confronting them, spoke calmly but firmly. The explanation was simple yet profound. These abilities were not the result of any secret or hidden power but were born from the brutal reality of their home world. A world where only the strong survived, where every day was a battle against the elements, against predators, and against the very environment itself. The Deathworlders had been forged by this unrelenting pressure, their bodies and minds evolving to endure and overcome where others would fall. The leader's words carried a weight that silenced the group. The message was clear: strength comes from hardship, and true power is not something given, it is earned through struggle and perseverance. The Deathworlders had not sought to intimidate or outshine the others, they had simply done what was necessary to survive. And in doing so, they had shattered the assumptions held by those who had judged them so quickly. The confrontation ended not with anger or resentment, but with a sobering realization. The Deathworlders were not anomalies. They were a testament to the incredible potential that lay within all beings, given the right circumstances. They had come to the Academy not to dominate, but to prove that even those from the harshest of worlds had a place among the stars, and that their strength was something to be respected, not feared. The final challenge of the Classroom Challenge was unlike the others, emphasizing not individual prowess but unity and cooperation. This challenge required all students to work together, pooling their strengths and knowledge to overcome a complex series of tasks designed to test their ability to function as a cohesive unit. For the Deathworlders, who had started as outsiders, this was a pivotal moment. Despite their initial isolation, the Deathworlders had gained respect through their previous performances. Now, as the group faced this final challenge, it became clear that their unique abilities were not just valuable, they were essential. The challenge involved navigating through a simulated disaster scenario, where survival depended on quick thinking, adaptability, and cooperation across species. The Deathworlders, with their enhanced senses and survival instincts, quickly took charge, their leadership natural and unforced. Where once they had been mistrusted, now they were looked to for guidance. The other students, who had once kept their distance, now followed the Deathworlders' lead, trusting in their abilities. The barriers that had once divided them began to break down as the students worked together, each contributing their own strengths to the collective effort. Under the Deathworlders' leadership, the group not only survived the challenge but excelled, overcoming obstacles that would have been insurmountable without their unique skills. As the challenge concluded, the Academy buzzed with a new energy. The success of the Deathworlders had shifted the atmosphere entirely. No longer seen as mere curiosities or threats, they were now recognized as valuable members of the Academy community. The faculty, who had watched the final challenge with growing admiration, could no longer deny the impact the Deathworlders had made. Their abilities, once seen as strange and intimidating, were now celebrated for the strength they brought to the table. In response to the Deathworlders' performance, the Academy's leadership convened to discuss the implications of what they had witnessed. It was clear that the curriculum and the Academy's approach to education needed to evolve. The success of the Deathworlders had highlighted the importance of diversity in skills and backgrounds. The Academy, which had long focused on traditional measures of intelligence and ability, now recognized that there was much to learn from those who had been shaped by different experiences. There was talk of revising the curriculum to include a broader range of challenges, ones that would cater to and develop the unique abilities of students from all walks of life. The Deathworlders had shown that true strength could come from the most unexpected places, and the Academy was determined to ensure that future students would be able to explore and cultivate their own unique talents. The idea of interspecies collaboration and mutual respect was given new importance, with plans to foster an environment where all students could thrive, regardless of their origin. The story of the Deathworlders quickly became a legend within the Academy. Their journey from outcasts to leaders was told and retold, serving as a powerful reminder of the strength that comes from adversity. They had proven that the harshest environments could produce the most resilient and capable individuals, and their experience became a touchstone for future generations of students. As the academic year drew to a close, the Deathworlders stood at the center of a transformed academy. They had come to prove themselves, and in doing so, had left an indelible mark on everyone they encountered. Their journey was far from over. The final scene suggested that their story had only just begun. The Academy, now more open and inclusive, stood ready for whatever challenges the future might bring. And the Deathworlders, having shown what they were capable of, looked toward that future with determination and purpose, ready to face whatever lay ahead.